Well, Father's Day of 2025, I decided to check out Palisades Interstate Park, which is Fort Lee, New Jersey, just opposite Washington Heights, New York City, Manhattan. Well, here, have a look yourself. I was a little worried about the rain, but this fog on the Hudson, pardon my French, is absolutely stellar. You can't really see downtown or even midtown from here. What a view, huh? So this is Palisades Interstate Park in Fort Lee, which is Bergen County, New Jersey. Fort Lee was a military fort, and it was right here along the Hudson River. And it was part of America's defenses system. Hudson River being very deep, navigable by ocean-going ships. One thing early America, right immediately after independence, wanted to do was to protect itself from the eventuality of possible invasion, particularly by the British. Remember, the tri-state area, so Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, were once British colonies, and during the Revolutionary War, we kicked them out. So we wanted to make sure we had our bases covered, literally and figuratively. This is Fort Lee here on the Jersey side, and you have the George Washington Bridge. And that New York City side, that is Washington Heights, which is part of Manhattan, the most infamous of New York City's 5 boroughs. So anytime you see a TV show, movie, etc., they show the skyscrapers of the New York City skyline. That's the borough of Manhattan. Times Square, etc., etc., for those of you not familiar with New York City. I'm going to take you over here and give you a hopefully a bit of a cleaner view here of the bridge. There's the old-time walls. They were built at a slight angle, so if a cannonball hit, the bulk of the power of that cannonball would be rejected back out with minimal damage to the actual fortifications, which is kind of cool if you think about it. This is Father's Day 2025, so it is raining and there's quite a bit of fog. You can't really see downtown or midtown, but that right here is the Hudson. You got some boaters enjoying the Hudson River. So this would be the Fort Lee Pier on the Fort Lee side, and the Washington Heights Pier on the New York City side. Again, for those of you not really familiar with the New York City metropolitan area, there are, well, the George Washington Bridge was built using Bethlehem steel. So that facility, that integrated steel mill, was a half-hour away from where I grew up. So that's kind of a point of pride, you know. They use Bethlehem steel, so it's a very sturdy, very sound bridge, even though it was built way back in 1939. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, like with anything, you have to pay to leave the state of New Jersey. Something funny for the locals would appreciate. So they built it. They saw a lot of heavy traffic, so they ended up adding a lower lane. So there's actually the express lane, which is the top lane, top 6 lanes, north and south, and then the local level, 6 lanes underneath the bridge, which is more for local traffic. If you had to take an exit in Fort Lee or right in Washington Heights, you could do all that from the lower level. I guess I'll stop talking and just, well, let the view speak for itself. Again, for those of you not familiar with the New York City metropolitan area, I'm in Fort Lee. So the George Washington Bridge carries Interstate 95. Now, the traffic closest to us is heading north, New York City, Long Island, or New York City, Long Island, New England. So Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, you're gonna want to go north. Traffic opposite, that's gonna be Interstate 95 south. Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC. Eastern flag. Oh, jeez.
1776. Protected by the powerful British fleet, General William Howe's troops land on the shore of Long Island at Brooklyn. August 27th. Howe attacks Washington's troops in advance of the Brooklyn fortifications and defeats them at the Battle of Long Island. Howe fails to follow up and loses the chance to destroy the entire American army at Brooklyn. The night of August 29th, Washington silently withdraws his army from Long Island to concentrate his forces in Manhattan. With the possible loss of New York imminent, Washington moves his troops to Upper Manhattan and New Jersey to strengthen the blockade of the Hudson. September 15th, Howe crosses the East River, invades Manhattan, and occupies New York City. Washington's troops flee inland and regroup on the hills of northern Manhattan. September 16th, they fight the British in a skirmish called the Battle of Harlem Heights, which gives them some heart after the retreat of the previous day. A month of inactivity follows, with the Americans and British facing each other across a valley which is now 125th Street. October 12th, Howe's troops move up the East River to Throgs Neck. 6 days later, they cross the Hutchinson River to Pell's Point, brush aside a small force of Americans on the Split Rock Road, and converge on New Rochelle, and then towards White Plains. Meanwhile, Washington moves a major part of his army from Manhattan to White Plains, where an indecisive battle occurs on October 28th. Washington then retreats to North Castle, and later crosses the Hudson for New Jersey. Howe, on November 5th, moves to Dobbs Ferry with plans to overwhelm Fort Washington. November 13th, Washington arrives at Fort Lee and discusses evacuating Fort Washington with Major General Nathaniel Greene, the area commander. Greene feels that the fort can hold. November 15th, Washington leaves Fort Lee to establish headquarters at Hackensack. November 16th, Howe's army storms Fort Washington, and Colonel Robert McGaw surrenders after a heroic battle. Washington watches the battle from Fort Lee, but he can do nothing to help the garrison. The night of November 19, 1776, a British division embarks on flatboats from Manhattan to attack Fort Lee. At daybreak on November 20th, they land about 5 miles north of Fort Lee. Another British division crosses the Hudson from Yonkers. The British troops climb the palisades and move towards Fort Lee. The Americans receive word of the British landing and quickly order the evacuation of the garrison at Fort Lee. The landing of British troops near Fort Lee marks the invasion of New Jersey and the beginning of Washington's historic retreat through the Jerseys to the Delaware River.
see.
Oh, wow.
Join or die.
Yeah.
It's museums like this that show you the real gravity of the situation. How determined the colonists were to break away from England. And I grew up in Easton, and it was the site of the third and final public reading of the Declaration of Independence in Center Square, where the courthouse was for Northampton County. And that was a beautifully done ceremony they did up until some gun violence stopped the festivities from occurring, so now future generations are robbed of that. I really regret not having a GoPro and not filming it. It was very well done. But you can see just the scale. I mean, this was not a Boston only or a Virginia only. Several key strategic points were very important to America winning the war. And it's nice to see a commitment to keeping that information, that passion, that story going. And when you take a look at the physical environment, it's quite shocking just how much people had to give. I actually just saw this. I didn't see this before when I was doing the video of the campaign there. But Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, Arizona Narrows, Lower and Upper Harbor, that's Manhattan, Bergen and Jersey City over here, Hoboken, and Fort Lee would be up at the tippy top. So Hudson, the East River. And that takes you out to Long Island Sound. Even though some elitists on Long Island won't say it, the New York City boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens are still technically a part of Long Island. I know I'll probably get a lot of heat from that, but if you take a look at the map, it's pretty obvious. But this is Fort Lee's historic park. It's just outside of Fort Lee, New Jersey, and it's definitely worth a visit if you can. It's quite impressive to see. The Palisades was just a sheer rock wall. and the commitment to the ideal of getting away from England. Just shows you how powerful ideas can be. So if you're local, if you're able to, I highly recommend doing a visit. But I looked at this earlier. I didn't say anything. But my hometown of Easton, stripes and the stars, those were for the 13 original colonies. And again, showing you just how far ideas can go, how far they can travel. This is definitely something to see if you get the chance. You really should get out here. Yeah, so if you have an interest in the revolution, this would be the place to have a look, I must say. Yeah. So goodbye now from Fort Lee and the Palisades Interstate Park. That's the George Washington Bridge from Ross Dock Park here in the Palisades Interstate Park. It's a New York City skyline, invisible. Oh, this is the mighty Hudson. You could actually take a ship all the way up to Albany, state capital. Shows you how deep and navigable the Hudson River really is. There's a helicopter doing tours, but the Palisades, those large rocky outcroppings, actually made Fort Lee pretty easily, naturally defendable. How the hell are you going to scale that, you know, with an army? But stick around, we'll see what else we can see here. Yeah, crashing through. One thing I might not know about the Hudson River Valley, the Hudson River empties out into New York Harbor as I'm being attacked by waves. And you take the Hudson north up to Albany, you can catch the Erie Canal, which is a great way to avoid the St. Lawrence River and the St. Lawrence Seaway to get you up to the Great Lakes. Go from Chicago to Philadelphia without having to use St. Lawrence and being out in the Atlantic Ocean for too long. So it could be a pretty smart way to travel, and see barges and cargo ships up and down the Hudson, taking advantage of that. Where we are now, you're looking southbound at the George Washington Bridge. We're still on the Jersey side. The fog today is kind of making it impossible to get a good look at the Manhattan skyline, but you know it's there. The only real complaint about Palisades Park is the metered parking. So I'm here at Palisades Interstate Park on the New Jersey side of the Hudson River. Still very close to the George Washington Bridge. Looks like to continue up along the Palisades, I think they closed that road off. I'm not sure how much farther we could get down here. So that might be it from Palisades, which means the next stop on our journey is Liberty State Park. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. Here she is. Okay. We'll see you guys at Liberty State.